Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. We're here to talk about TrueCertify. My name is Dan Kruger. I'm the county clerk in Ottawa County, and Lori Catalino will be joining us. Lori Catalino was my assistant chief deputy clerk. She's now been promoted to district court administrator. So she's gone through all of this process with us and will be helping me in the presentation. We're talking about TrueCertify, and essentially we want to make sure that there are a couple of things that happen during the presentation. Anytime you have a question, raise your hand at the time, because we want you to be able to ask it when it occurs to you and not wait until the end, because if you're like me, I forget it toward the end, and I'd rather do it at the time that it occurs. So please do that. So which one do I go? This one? Is that the right one? All right. First of all, let's talk a little bit about how we did this. One of the things that happens with Ondase is that when our staff began working with Ondase, they essentially began to look at, boy, I can do this with it and I can do that with it, and there are these kinds of things that can occur, and a lot of this stuff came from staff involvement. So the staff found that they could email records, but they still had to mail our certified records. And they began to suggest that it was important that we look at a process. To email issues and then have to mail the certified was inefficient. It was poor service. We had to have the expense of maintaining our electric raised seal. But there were some problems that occurred in the process of getting it put together. One of those was a need for a legislative change. We need to develop a safe way to certify records electronically, and we began by researching, and we contacted several state and federal agencies, courts throughout the country, and we contacted Pierce County in the state of Washington. So Lori did the Pierce County thing. So Lori, take that. You got to hand off the mics here.
Okay, so what we did is when we started calling around the country, you're probably all very familiar with U.S. federal district and bankruptcy courts. They're all electronic, been electronically sealing records for years. None of them had actually certified documents electronically. So we kind of went on this wild goose chase of going all over, and we landed in Pierce County in the state of Washington, which is Seattle area, and they were the only person in the country that we could find that were certifying court records only electronically. So we did quite an extensive interview process with them and how their system looked, how it worked, how they were addressing some of these safety concerns, fraudulent concerns, reproduction, maintenance of revenue, how are they protecting their revenue streams and selling those certified copies. All of those different issues we discussed with them, and the product that we ended up with is similar to what they have, although ours, TrueCertify, is much more advanced and protective of our concerns and our revenue stream than what they had. So that was kind of our building point, and from there we met with the Michigan Department of Vital Records on the Vital Records side of the clerk's office in getting their buy-in and what their kind of opinion about what we were doing. And Dan can talk a little bit about that, as well as the legislative change, because once we had our issues in place of we knew what we wanted to do and we knew how we were going to protect our documents, the next step was getting the law to change, allowing us to do it.
And essentially what we did was sat down with the Department of Vital Records and talked to them about what they would like to see done. And interestingly enough, they had already looked at this, and it was a surprise to us that essentially they said that, yeah, they were going to try to do the same thing in 4 or 5 years. So we tended to be ahead of the game. And, you know, when I talked to some of the other people in my association about doing this, I said, you know, the Vital Records Department is already on that track. They just don't have the facility, the time, the money to do it at this point, and they will be doing it, and they're going to be looking at us for the kind of success that we have in the process as well. So they were very supportive, but they had a number of questions that they asked, which we answered, and they were satisfied with the answers that we gave them as well. The one big issue that held us up to some degree was the legal issue, whether or not we could legally do an electronic certification. So these are some excerpts from the Michigan compiled laws allowing for the application of the electronic seal. And one of the problems that we generally have with people who question is whether or not it's legal. We point to the statute, and this statute was amended to allow, and you can see the seal affixed electronically on the paper or affixed to an electronic document makes it legal. And essentially, we talked about the court seal in 232, affixed electronically upon the instrument or writing to be sealed, or affixed electronically upon an electronic document. So we associated all of the issues that we had with the legality in the statute, which now allows us to electronically seal that information. How do we use it? We went live with TrueCertify on October 1, 2011. We've electronically certified over 8,000 records between October 1 and April 30th of this year. And documents we certify electronically: death certificates, marriage license, court records, business certificates, anything other than birth records. We do not electronically certify birth records. And the reason for that tends to be somewhat federal government doesn't recognize new technology, and they're a little bit behind in what they're doing. So we're going to go on with the sample. Does anyone have any questions to this point about? Yes, sir.
How does your certification keep me from altering the document and still keeping the seal on it?
Good question. Question was, how does our certification prevent somebody from altering the document and the seal on the process? We're going to go through that right now. Lori's going to explain what it is and how it works. Okay?
Okay, so what we have here, this is just kind of an overview, a sample of what the certified piece, the TrueCertify piece of the document looks like. And as you can see, there's several key components here. Essentially, what is added to our certified copy is this title page that looks just like this. This is added to every single certified copy. Instead of, traditionally, we always put the certified stamp on the last page where the judge's signature was. This now has become a cover sheet, and we're no longer certifying that last page. So this is your cover sheet. It has some key components to point out. The first is in this upper box that says document information. In there, we have a file locator and an encryption key. Those are uniquely assigned to each document that we electronically certify. So every single time we certify a record, even if it's on the same file, if we're creating 2 certified copies, each version is getting its own unique file locator and encryption key. You can see it captures who digitally certified the document, the date and the time, so that's automatically stored, cannot be altered by staff in any way. And then we have an authentication time frame, which we have set court records at 90 days. Our vital records is set at 120 days. And that's the piece, the website verification piece, how long the recipient of the document can go out to this website that you'll see and verify the document. And then you will see the number of pages that are attached to this cover sheet. So all that information is contained in that document information field, which is new. You also see the electronic signature of Dan and the 20th Circuit Court seal. Those two are permanently burned into the document. There is no way for someone to delete that seal off, no matter how they take the PDF and move it through whatever programs. It's permanently burned, as is Dan's signature is permanently burned on the document. And you can see both through the certified copy stamp in the back, that watermark, and the seal that almost appears as a watermark. That's one of the treasures of the seal, is that you can still see through it. So it's not something that's blocking out text. It's something that you can put over text. In the example, a great example on the court record side is summons and personal protection orders that we're sealing. You can see all of that court language come through the seal. So it almost looks like the seal was applied first and then the document was typed over it. So that prevents that issue of that seal being deleted or copied.
One of the important aspects that we had here, though, when we talked about this with the legislature, is the fact that the seal here and the signature were burned into the document. So you can't simply layer it on, and in the process, somebody getting it and taking those layers off. So it's a burned-in seal. It's not something that you can take off at any point.
I have another question. Going back to that first box where you have that authentication time frame, is that just for on the website that they have to go within those 90 days? Is that what you were saying?
Exactly.
Okay, and then
Yep.
then what happens to the document? It's not available?
It's not available at the website, but
Okay.
it doesn't change the fact that this is a certified copy.
Okay.
You know, when somebody walks out of your office with that raised seal, they have a certified copy forever. They still have their certified copy. The issue is it just can't be verified at the website any longer past that time frame. And that time frame is completely programmable by you. Like I said, we have records set at 90 days. We have vital records at 120. We're about 10 months into this process, and that's one of the things we're evaluating. Is that long enough? Is it too long? Those types of things.
And what are you finding with that?
We're finding no problem so far.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
When they go to verify,
Mhm.
do they get to see the document in its entirety so then they could compare it page by page?
Yes, exactly. Yep. So,
Did you want to go back?
so then this is the verification piece here on the bottom. So this is the instructions to the recipient, whether that's the customer purchasing the document or the registered deeds office bank that the customer is trying to pass the document off, saying, here's my certified copy. This is the website that whoever wants to verify, as Jody said, the contents of the document and make sure that what they're showing you is actually what is issued by the clerk's office. The website is actually, and we'll see, it's going to pull up the actual document from the clerk's records, nowhere else. You'll see there's a mobile tag if you want to access it on your iPhone. And then the last piece is, I mentioned this as a cover sheet. Each then subsequent page has this footnote on it that has all of this information. Every single page is automatically stamped with this information, and you can see the file locator there is repeated. So that's kind of the verification that's automatically assigned so that it eliminates that inserting page in the paper world. And again, even if somebody is a great computer guy and they can go in and add this footer on every page to insert their own pages, that's not going to show up on the website. So it's not going to be verified that way. And that's that security and safeguard of the website piece. Sydney?
You're still sealing these documents as well, I take it? I mean, I know that you're doing like a title page kind of that has all those things on it that you showed on the previous screen. But like sometimes like this order, some orders require an actual seal on the order. Are you still sealing
Yes.
your order as well?
Yes, whatever orders or documents that require a court seal could be sealed.
Okay.
In addition to that, the processing aspect from the clerk side is not going to change. The only difference is you're now certifying it, and this is how we certify. So if your underlying document requires a seal, it will still be there. So now if we were to take steps and you are now certifying a document from your Ondase system. So essentially what we do is you can go out to your custom query, however you're accessing. This is going to be a circuit court records example. You can punch in your case number or you can do a document retrieval with a vital records, for instance. This is how we retrieve our vital records. You put your name in, and then you're going to bring up your file in Ondase. When you double click on your document, it's going to be exposed there. You can see we've got these system tasks would be the far right. And you see we have two options. We have certified copy and we have that redacted certified copy. So this is where you're going to make your distinction in your title page. Is it going to say I'm issuing a certified copy or I'm issuing a redacted certified copy from the county clerk's office? Whatever icon you click on, it's automatically going to know that I need to put that redaction language in, or it's a non-redacted copy. Once we click on that, you're going to get a prompt box that's basically going to ask you how many copies do you want to create. This was primarily built for vital records and death certificates for funeral homes, although we do use it in the court records instance with front of the court. You guys are probably familiar with front of the court needing 3 certified copies of orders in interstate child support collection issues. So this is where we would issue 3 certified copies for front of the court. And this, what number we put in here, again, is going to assign that unique file locator and encryption key to each copy that we create. It's not going to be the same file locator on each different copy. So that gives us the ability to authenticate that document through 3 different file locators, so if you want to pass it to more than one person. So then the next step is basically Ondase is going to automatically create the certified copy with all those features that we talked about. The way we've structured our workflow is you can see we have a certified document workflow queue. That's where all of our certified documents go once we click on that certified copy. There's a very minimal lag time from the time that they click on that system task to the time that it shows up in this workflow queue. So then staff who wants to retrieve their certified copy, they go to the workflow queue. The document is displayed for them. And again, in your system tasks, you have the ability to print. If somebody's at the counter and they want a printed copy of their certified document, you can print it through this task icon, or you can email it. When we click on the email icon, you essentially can put in the email address, whether the customer wants it to come to themselves, or maybe they want you to email it directly to the insurance company. We just, I think if we go to the, sure. When we click on the email function, then there's basically a prompt box, which I didn't capture, but it will show up here, and that's where your staff would type in the email address. They click send, the email automatically goes. So it's not, they don't have to right-click on the document, send to, open up their Microsoft or Lotus Notes, and retype in the address there. It's automatically going just from this workflow task function.
I have a quick question. So when you went through those steps in the fixed client environment, as far as sealing it and it went into your workflow queue, at that same time it was becoming available from the TrueCertify web portal? At the
Yes.
same time? Oh, there wasn't extra steps you had to do to get it?
Nope, it's automatically available.
Okay.
Yep, all of that, those features are programmed in by that task. So then, so now you've created your document, you've emailed it or printed it, whatever your customer needed. So now we're at the point of where either the customer or the recipient, the customer's passing the document to. This is how we're going to verify the document. We're going to go out to that TrueCertify website that's on the bottom of that cover page. You're going to type that into your web browser, or you can scan your mobile tag if you prefer to access it that way. And this is what the verification website looks like, where this is the key information where you're going to enter your file locator and your encryption key right off the document. I like to cut and paste because, as you can see, the file locator and the encryption key can be lengthy. I do believe during our discussions that some of that can be programmable in terms of what it looks like to you. So that information can just be cut and paste right into the file locator and the key, and then you can put in your security images. And when you click submit, they're going to get the PDF version of the document in the PDF viewer. And then you can have all of the safeguards or openness to the document that you want to dictate through that PDF program.
Can they print from there again?
Yes, they can print. They can print, they can email it, they can
How do you do that on cost side? Because then they would technically be getting more copies for free.
They can do that, and we'll kind of address that as we move forward. It's an excellent question. So just to kind of recap some of the safeguards that we have, that unique file locator and encryption key is automatically assigned when the documents were created. We have that website verification, which, if you think about a judgment of divorce, only certifying the last page where the judge has signed. Maybe the property distribution in that judgment of divorce is on page 4 and judge didn't sign till page 8. There is nothing in the paper world from someone going home and word processing program putting in whatever distribution of property they want to put in and taking it to the Register of Deeds office and saying the house is mine. This would prohibit that, and because you have that website verification piece. We have the ability for encryption before retrieval, and we have the ability to track who's actually verifying the document, and as well on the front side, who's issuing these documents. We were able to, for really the first time ever, very quickly ascertain how many certified copies we had issued in a 7/8 month period, which we've never really been able to do without looking at the financial piece and how much money we had collected. And we can also then get a feel for how many people are accessing the website to verify these documents, and potentially look at that piece of how many times are these things being printed. And we're not there yet, but that's certainly discussions that we've had. And then that footer on the bottom of the page also helps to ensure, again, like we talked about, pages being inserted where we can't do in the traditional method. This is a disclaimer that we email. Anytime we email out our certified copy, we include this disclaimer when we hand them out at the counter, which basically just goes over the issue of this is a legally acceptable document. We're allowed to electronically seal. It cites the statute. And then, of course, we deliberately included that it's fraud and a crime if you alter a document that is issued by the court or the clerk in any way, shape, or form. So this is kind of our threat to them that we mean business, and this is a statute that says we can do this, and this is a statute that says you will be in trouble if you do something naughty. So what we've done as a matter of policy in our office, when we went live on October 1st, we just issued the mandate that you are only getting an electronic certified copy. We don't give customers the option. Part of that was getting buy-in. We're the first county, like I said, doing this really in the country, and certainly in the state of Michigan. So in order to get buy-in, you kind of have to force people to see what the product is so that they can begin to accept it. So what our office policy is essentially, they're only getting an electronic true certified copy, and if they have any issues with who they're passing the document to, whether it be insurance company, bank, Register of Deeds office, they are required to submit something on letterhead to us saying that that company refuses to accept this document. Then that gives us the opportunity to either educate that insurance company or bank and kind of get to the reasons why they're rejecting it. I really, honestly, have only had 2 conversations, one with an insurance company in Nebraska and another, I think it was an insurance company from Texas that I talked with. And it was really just they didn't understand because they'd never seen it, and they had some concerns. And as soon as I went through the process, their underwriters, both underwriters, were fine with it. So we don't get a lot of people coming back saying, hey, so-and-so won't reject it. Recently, we had our first Michigan Register of Deeds office that challenged us in Michigan. And again, as soon as we had talked to her and educated her, she was fine with accepting it. And again, the only other piece of it is, like Dan said, we do only issue raised seal copies of birth certificates. And then we do ask the customer if they are using their order or their vital records, such as a death certificate, for passport issues, immigration, any basically federally mandated service that they're seeking, we give them the raised seal document. But we still give them this. We give them this true certified copy. We just add the raised seal to it so that the federal government is happy that they have their bumps on their seal, and then they'll take it.
What about documents that have had to go to the Great Seal for the state of Michigan? Will they take this, or do you still do the raised seal on those?
The Great Seal accepts this.
They do.
Yeah, we haven't had anything that comes back from them saying, no, we won't accept it. And if they did, I'd just sit down and talk to them and say, listen, this is what Michigan law says is available. You're part of the state of Michigan. You've got to accept that. So, you know, what was interesting, before I get into the next slide, what the interesting part is that we've not had anyone, other than the people who Lori just mentioned, come back and say, we're not going to accept that. When we started this in October, we kind of expected we'd get phone call after phone call because we were shipping these documents, essentially death certificates, which are dealt with by insurance companies and banks and, you know, mortgage companies, everything else, and we got nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a phone call, not a question, not a letter, nothing. So, you know, as I said, we've been doing this since October, and essentially we've gotten 3 or 4 phone calls, and that's it. To accept or not to accept. Consistent acceptance, as I was just talking about, from banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, Michigan Secretary of State, the Department of Corrections. In fact, we got a letter we got an email last week. One of our employees sent a certified copy to Department of Corrections, and I'll read you the email we just got back. This is last week, mind you. Thanks so much, and it mentions the employee's name. I received the certified copy and will process the amended judgment accordingly. I am so impressed with the authentic certified document that your county has and are able to provide electronically. It would be nice if other counties went to the system that Ottawa County has. So that comes from the Department of Corrections last week. Okay? So Register of Deeds, one of the things we did was mention to all the Register of Deeds offices across the state that we were going to do this, and the courts are simply looking at this as well. We've not had any problem with any of the courts across the country. The rejection that we've had, obviously, has come from the federal government. It shouldn't surprise any of you that that happens, but that's where we've gotten. And essentially, it happened through Social Security. So when we dealt with the Social Security agency in Chicago, not a problem. They sent it on to their office in Baltimore, and the people in Baltimore said, no, that's not good enough. We need the raised seal. So in that context, we've been talking with our congressional representation, trying to get them to deal with the Social Security agency and see if we can get some changes in what they will accept or not accept. Our likes, customer service. Email, email, email. We don't have any of the mailing out of certified copies that we had before. It's really cut down. Just in our aspect alone from the vital records, and I hadn't talked to Lori about this, in the vital records aspect that we have, we're saving between $200 and $300 a month just in paper and postage costs. Now that adds up. So that's a significant issue. We've not seen any noticeable decline in revenue. And obviously one of the questions that people have is, well, what happens? Can't people just simply copy this stuff over and use it? And the answer is, yeah, they can do that. And if somebody presents it, as Lori mentioned, a certified copy is a certified copy. They just can't verify that. So if I'm giving somebody a raised seal copy, they can go out and use that. And we've seen cases where they've copied the raised seal copy and had no problem with other agencies accepting it. So I don't know that there's any process or procedure that would threaten what we do in any respect.
I think also in speaking with Pierce County, Washington, they had been up and running for almost 2 years, and they had a web-based program where you could go out and order 3 certified copies or whatever from the customer aspect. And that was one of my questions to them, because I'm like, how are you protecting your revenue stream? They said they have not had any problem. And they don't even have the encryption key kind of component, the uniqueness that we have. So people were still ordering 3 copies because that's what they thought they needed. So they, in a 2-year program, hadn't received any reduction. So this is one of the things we're evaluating.
And essentially, we talked about the increased security and verification. Oh, I'm sorry, question.
I was just curious how much you guys charge for the certified copies.
Court records is by statute. It's $10 plus $1 per page. And then Dan on the
Vital records is set by county commission at $15 a certified document.
Are there requests for your documents coming in different forms, in person, by phone, by email? And then do you have a way for them to pay you online or something so that they don't have to?
We take credit card over the phone. We've been working on building a piece through our website. Right now, through the website, they can order a certified copy and their credit card is charged. They don't immediately get it, though. Staff still gets an email saying, Cindy wants a certified copy. So they can order and pay online, but they don't actually get the document immediately.
So when they order multiple copies, does that then give them the opportunity to email it to multiple parties? I mean, why would somebody order more than 1 copy? Is it just because that's what they've been told they need to get from the funeral home? I mean, that's what I'm wondering.
And that's what, generally we do multiple copies with funeral homes.
Okay.
And actually this has been the biggest boon to the process, because normally what would happen, I know a lot of the counties are going to the electronic death certificate system. So the funeral homes will do the electronic death certificate, email it or send it over electronically to the county. The county, what we do then is take that process. They'll give us, as Lori showed you, the number of copies that they wish to have. My staff simply sits at the desk and will say, all right, we need 25 copies, 35 copies, 10 copies, and it goes through the process, and then we email it directly to the funeral home. The funeral home generally is still sitting there with the client going through the setting up the funeral arrangements and everything else, and they're able to hand them the death certificates before they leave the funeral home, and many times, okay? And those people are the ones that are really, it's a service issue, because they're getting that information rather than a week later when the process goes through the office and comes back. They've gotten it immediately. They're interested in a large extent of getting that information to the insurance company so they can get the insurance payments, or to the bank to change the records in the bank and so forth. And they can walk out of the funeral home and still do all of that stuff rather than waiting a week before they get the death certificates. So that's where we have the largest number. And what we've done with the payment on that is simply get a credit card from each of the funeral homes. And we have that on record. So if the funeral home says, I want 10 copies, we simply charge their credit card and we email them the copies.
10, and then when they print out 10, those are all 10.
Differently certified documents.
They all have different?
They have different ID numbers. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And that helps for when they come back 6 months from now, because maybe their document is expired. They're going to purchase another certified copy. The authentication time frame is kind of the safeguard with the revenue stream. That's why that piece is there.
Right, so if they came back, like you say, there was a 90-day authentication time frame. If they came back 6 months later, they'd have to buy another certified copy if they wanted to be able to verify it online.
Yeah.
Correctly.
Absolutely.
All right.
Correct. And of course, that's you talk about revenue stream. If we had the raised seal on the documents, they wouldn't have to do that.
Right.
They'd have to combine. They could take that raised seal and just keep using it.
So, is that the clerk's office that will be sending these death certificates back to the funeral home?
Yes.
So you're going to punch their credit card in if they want 10 copies, 10 times for $15 or whatever your charge is? Beautiful.
The other piece, too, that we had talked about is, I think Dan mentioned we charge $15 for those vital records. We can charge up to $26 by statute. So if we see that decline, we can always go back to the board and say, you need to up the ante here because we're seeing a decline. And that's justifiable based on the technology, because that's a cost to the county that we're having to purchase and maintain the system, so it warrants increasing those vital record fees.
But if you send 10, you charge $10 for the first, 2 for everyone after that. That's how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever the charge
You're
is. that
running
we,
the card through once
right.
Yes.
and charging 15.
Yes.
I see that, yeah.
Now, essentially, we have an increased security and verification with these, as you can imagine. The efficiency in certifying records from any workstation. I should mention, too, that one of the things we do, we want to make sure that there are some death certificates, for example, when it's a veteran, they get a veteran's copy for nothing. Okay? So we can process that in here as well. So if they're asking for 10, we give them 1 free and then the copies beyond that. Okay? So that's all in this system as well. My staff does not have to get up from their desk and move over to print them off. They don't have to move to certify them, put the raised seal on them. They're all doing it from their desk. So we've saved that walking, maneuvering time, which is an additional cost savings that we didn't incorporate in the amount of money that I gave you earlier that we save in this process. We can add the raised seal if they need to have the raised seal. So if it's for Social Security Agency, we ask them, is there anything that you need it to be used for a federal agency? And if they say yes, we can add the raised seal to it.
Put it in the mail, or
We can put that one in the mail.
they can come get it?
Yep.
Okay.
But we do have that ability to do. We can track the volume, as Lori mentioned, certified records being issued through Ondase, where we didn't have that ability to do that before. And we can easily retrieve previously issued certified copies as we've done. So our challenges, we have some limits on who will accept the documents as yet, just that one. But essentially, what we're looking for are more of you to do this, so we have a bigger pool that people will be getting documents electronically, and it will become a matter of fact rather than a questionable issue.
And in our conversation with the Baltimore Social Security Office, that was essentially what we were left with. You're one county in the entire country. I don't need to take this. So as more people come on and they start seeing this, we're going to get their attention, and that's really what we need.
The setting the expiration of the document verification is up to you. That's something you can decide. We set it at 90 for our court records, 180 days for our vital records. That was our decision. So if you were to do that, you could set that verification date to whatever you wanted. So if you were if you had a problem with your revenue stream, you wanted it shortened, you could do 60 days, you could do 90 days. All of that is set by you. It's not within the program. So you have those kinds of decisions. Yes, sir.
Where is this record stored? Is it at the local county server, or is it in the cloud?
The original record is stored in the county. The record that they're verifying is stored on a server through ImageSoft.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to have a particular server for this verification process?
No. We don't know the long-term impact on this revenue stream-wise, but from talking with Pierce County and our own review of this, we don't think there's a revenue problem with it at all. In fact, if anything, we think we may increase our revenues long-term because somebody's going to go want to use a document that's been electronically certified, and they're going to see that it's been 180 days, more than 180 days, more than 90 days, and when the person that is trying to verify the document tries to get it, it's not there, so they're going to have to buy another one. Otherwise, with the raised seal document, they wouldn't have to do that. So we think that it's not going to increase much, but we think there may be a slight increase in revenue over the long term.
Back to the revenue part again. Now, we have to pay somebody to store this in the cloud. We paid for the software to certify it and all that. How does that going to stack up over the long run with what we're doing now with the hand stamper and all that?
Mike, do you have an answer to that one?
Well, actually, because of the fact you're only storing it for a short period of time, 60, 90, maybe 120 days, the pricing model for TrueCertify is based on the volume of documents being certified. It has nothing to do with the size of the document or the amount of storage that it's going to take up. And I think it's worth noting that we have no access, ImageSoft has no access to that document once it's been secured through the system. We cannot go in. No one can go in other than who is authorized to view that document. And then lastly, when you think about this whole process of making documents securely available, I'm getting extensive interest from health departments because of HIPAA privacy. I'm getting a lot of interest from prosecutors being able to securely share discovery materials in a manner. As a matter of fact, we have a couple of prosecutors that have already contracted to use it for that. And I'm sure that there are other government secured documents that this becomes an excellent tool to allow you to share those documents because they may have some personal protective information that would violate Michigan privacy rules.
So you could then certify a document and just send the certification to whomever you wanted to share the document with via email. But I'm thinking that email isn't really secure, so at least as far as I know it's not.
So they have to then go in and log in to the cloud solution to access that document and authenticate themselves.
Right, but wouldn't they still be in possession of the document that was electronically certified via the email that you sent them?
Well, they're going to print off all of the documents off of their email.
Right, but
Okay.
I'm trying to keep people from seeing it, or it's very, very hush-hush or secret.
Well, most of the documents that are going to be emailed are not hush-hush.
Yeah.
They're all public record.
But he was talking about discovered evidence possibly. Or
Yeah,
So
that's...
the law firm would go in and they would have to go through that same authentication.
Right.
In case you're not sending the document, you're just sending the encryption key and the
Right.
locator,
Yep.
and then you would go and get it from the site.
Right.
Security.
Okay.
Document
So
itself
it is, the document is secure. Yeah, the document is
Yeah,
secure.
But the encryption key, of course, that could be used by the wrong person too. If they had it,
No, that's why it's legal and that's why it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, this is really just a sample
Me
of public
using
record.
The encryption key if I'm in possession of it.
Well, all you're going to do with the encryption key is to get in and look at the document on the server to make sure that it's a viable document. You're not going to be able to print it off from there.
No, but at least I'd be able to read it and obtain that.
Yeah, but it's all public information anyway. Other than the fact that the information that Mike was talking about, there's going to be probably, I would assume, another security issue that goes along with that. People are going to have the security codes to get in to check that. If you're talking about HIPAA documents, that's a whole different aspect than what we're talking about here.
But you do possess the technology to do these HIPAA.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
I have a question with regard to court records. Did you have to get a buy-in from the judges, from the judiciary, before you could actually move to certifying their signatures?
We did show them the program, and they were about as excited as we were.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah,
to
we
see.
have a very open door, so
Good.
the judges were completely on board before we went live.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, this really is a boon when your staff, when you don't have a lot of staff time, your staff is overworked, you're trying to cut costs and save. This process will actually do it for you because your staff sits at their desk, as I mentioned before, goes through the whole process, doesn't have to leave and run around. They actually have more time to get other things done by going through this than they do anything else.
And we mentioned the raised seal earlier. We have, electronic seal where you can put the documents in and it seals. And we had looked to either replace that or fix it because we had an issue about 2 summers ago. And we had to scour the country, and it was thousands and thousands of dollars that we had to ship the seal to, and they were going to fix it, and it was going to take weeks on end. And the only other option was the hand that we had. So we've saved significant wear and tear on that precious machine that we have in the office, which is thousands of dollars in and of itself.
And again, the savings that we have that I gave you earlier is what we've looked at in the last 8 months. That doesn't include time that we've saved in the process. I'll tell you, when we do it with our funeral directors, we switched over a process not too long ago. We were down for a couple of days, and our phones were ringing off the hook from our funeral directors that what in the heck's happened? We've got to drive into the county to get this stuff done now? You can't just send it. So, you know, they were enthusiastic when we started this. And I might add, we not only do this to our funeral directors within our county, but when we have funeral directors in neighboring counties that are performing services for county residents, we're doing it to all those other county funeral directors as well. So we've got them in Allegan, in Ottawa, Kent, Muskegon, and Newaygo, Oceana that we deal with, and they just love this. They don't have to wait for it in the mail. As I said, they get it right away, and that's one of the biggest boons that we have in the process. They just love it.
So you can take on a funeral director over in another county. He can ship you his information. You certify the guy's dead, and you send it back.
If the death occurs in our county, and the funeral is being held in another county with another funeral director, then we can perform that service for that funeral director.
But the guy had to die in your county.
Right. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.